think communications for me is not a certain box that we tick or how we tick it. What's important is that the organization, the business understands that why do we want to communicate and what do we want to communicate. I think everything else follows after that. Every business has a set audience, and then obviously the reason to communicate more is to get more people to listen to you, more people to hear you out, and more people to notice you. That is one common aim of us communicating, whether it's corp comms, internal marketing comms, anything that we do. So I think it depends, as I said again, on what the organization wants to do and where they want to go.
Correct. Hi Vibha, welcome to my podcast Marketing and Copy. Great to have you here. Vibha, and maybe year and a half, maybe we met around COVID time. So welcome. And I did not know you're almost like your second marriage is to Schneider Electric.
Very true.
Right? Maybe you love them more than a kid because you keep going back to that. So congratulations for your new position, and a couple of awards along the way in this last couple of years since I've known you. So just take us through your career so far, and tell us more about how you started off your career and where you've been.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Lijo. It's a pleasure to be here and to have a heart-to-heart chat as two marketeers, probably. And I hope your audience finds the interaction we have today meaningful. Thank you for your congratulations. Let me start by telling a bit about myself. So, I'm an Indian. I've been living in Dubai for almost 13 years now. I've been with Schneider Electric for almost 15 years. And my career span is around 20 years now.
Okay.
As an educational background, I studied information technology and information science, but I became a marketer because of sheer passion I had for communications. So I didn't choose the much beaten path of becoming a coder or a programmer after doing my information technology. I rather wanted to marry the two sides, the technology and the aspect of how does that make a difference to people's lives and how do you communicate it to people. And that's why I started as a content writer back in those days. This term was not there. We used to call them technical writers, right? So I started with the IT industry in technical writing, and then I moved on to a more typical industry that Schneider caters to today in terms of electricity, automation, energy, industrial segment. And thereon, I moved a bit more further to consumer marketing, channel marketing, business marketing, comms, wherein then I became part of the later on a set of people who were called the content marketers or marketing comm professionals. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and she keeps me on my toes, which she also makes me realize that, the changing pace of technology is so fast. It's impossible to really stay on track. And I'm not just talking about technology, it's about trends also that we as marketers face changing every day. There's a new disruption happening every 10 seconds. So actually, I think the value of disruptions has been lost somewhere down the line. But again, that's me, a passionate tech person talking about marketing. At the moment, I am responsible for a set of brands which are part of a larger group called Schneider Electric. The set of brands that I'm responsible for are essentially brands that cater to the minimum segment in the Schneider strategy of product positioning. I am responsible for managing the regions like CIS, Central Eastern Europe, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East and Africa as well. We're talking around 60 plus countries, and I have a team of around 7 people today to support me. From a typical corporate setup to managing a set of brands that come to you as a joint venture in an organization, I had to change my thinking hat as a marketer. That could be the starting point of a conversation, Lijo, because I had to bring in more of an entrepreneurial mindset to what I did. There was a lot of learning, doing, and failing. Not a lot of set templates, not a very set direction, not a very specific prototype of marketing to follow, right? So I basically set up the marketing for these key value brands from scratch. I could not copy or piggyback the momentum that was created by the motherhood company, mother brand, because as a strategy, we were not selling together in the market.
Right.
So you can imagine I was like managing 2 or 3 different companies with different brand values and different strategies in the market. And I think that was the sweet spot, the challenge wherein, you had to switch your hats to see what one business wanted, what one brand was selling, what the other brand wanted to do. So I think that's where I am today. That's the exciting journey that I am that I have embarked on, and continuing to build my own disruptions on the way in this marketing journey.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because a lot of people do not know the brands that and the association they have with Schneider. I'll come to that later. But first off the hook is kind of a question that a lot of the listeners may or may not know. What is corporate comms? I mean, it's kind of what role do they play in marketing? And is it something that every organization should have, and what should they be looking at in that?
That's an excellent question, Lijo. And with my limited knowledge and experience, I'll try to answer that for you. So I think corporate communications, as it indicates, so a set of communications that a corporate, which is an organization, does. 10 years back, we did not have such a detailed bifurcation in comms. There was just comms, right? We had corporate comms that would manage the PR, internal comms. We didn't have employer branding at the time, so employer branding came in and became part of corporate comms. Right? And then you had marketing comms. Some organizations have it all under one umbrella. Some organizations have it split under 3 or 4 different umbrellas, right? Corporate comms for me essentially is the organization talking like a person to all the external touch points, right? It may be related to business, it may not be related to business, but it is about the corporation, it is about the organization. So basically, what do I stand for? What do I do? What do I represent in an economy, in a society? Who am I, right? It's an individual standing, but for a company, for an organization. So I think that's corporate communications, which obviously also got extended into public relations, government relations, as I said, employer branding, building those alliances or those relationships in the extended ecosystem where a business operates, where that organization operates. So this is corporate comms for me. Today, if you ask me, I mean, I told you how it all came together and where it is today. You will see a lot of organizations, corporate MNCs, for example. They will have a separate corporate comms division. They will have a separate internal comms and employer branding division, which usually goes to the HR comms part. And then you also have what we have as the marketing communication. So marketing communication talks to all these levers, touch points of communications, right? Because marketing also will tell you how you want your brand to be perceived in the market. So that direction comes from marketing comms, which then is picked up by your corporate communications team, your employer branding team, along with your internal comms teams, because we want to have a standardized story that we want to tell to everyone, internally and externally. So that is where corporate comm today spreads.
Right.
So I think I answered your question.
Absolutely, it does. And also, Schneider can, like for example, you are working with, and it's a tricky job, working with corporate comms and mostly the emerging market with almost emerging brands, right? If now, and this part of the region, so I have a very specific question for this part of the region or for the market. So, is this part of the market behind the curve of global corporate comms as a job role, or do you think that this region does represent one of the best in class corporate comms practices?
Very good question. I think I'll have a mixed answer for this to you. See, I think before COVID happened, before the pandemic happened, I think we had a very, I will not say we were not mature, but I will say we were not so mature as compared to the rest of the regions or the rest of the world in terms of corp comms. Because this region is very different in terms of the mindset, the way people want to be spoken to, the kind of information people want to hear, right? A lot of social topics, a lot of business related topics, a lot of topics on, for example, sustainability, the most favorite word. Now we have COP28, right? There was not much buzz around this till a decade back in this region, right? I've been here for more than a decade now. But what happened with COVID, this disruption happened overnight. I think the corporate comms level, the comms level changed overnight. In that 1 year,
Right.
it went from being a basic novice level profession or outlook to it being the most important pillar for any business in the Middle East region, the region that we are talking about,
Right.
because you had to know how to communicate well to your teams. You had to know how to communicate well to your stakeholders. You had crisis communications. You had to communicate bad news. You had to communicate some good news. You had to communicate about salary cuts. You had to communicate about offices shutting down, supply chain not working at the moment, not knowing what the future holds, and you had to keep everybody in place. You had to talk about medical emergencies. You had to talk about the kind of support the organization can provide to the employees, right, in distress or in difficult situations where a lot of families went through the illness. So I think it changed the game. It changed the game world over, but I think what it did to us in the region is it just put us on a very fast curve of disruption and change. You would, I don't know, would you agree or not to this, but you will see, look at the comms we did 10 years back here, the normal comms. And look at what we are doing now and what we did in the space of last 3 years. I think there's no comparison. We have really overshot the natural trajectory of change that we wanted to follow for the comms to develop here. It's just expanded.
Good thing you said 10 years back. 10 years back, I think the corporate comms was as good as just having some PR releases.
That's it.
In
That's
between,
it.
and the other people in the marketing team say that why do we need a person here for a PR release?
There was nothing else. There was no concept of employee relations, internal comms, employer branding. Oh, we're just hiring people. HR puts out a job. People come in. This is organization. People ask now. People are asking when they go to give interviews. The first question they ask, whether it's a millennial, Gen Z, X, Y, whoever it is, they ask, what kind of work-life balance benefits do you provide? After COVID, I have these many work days from home, these many work days from office. They want to know, they want to understand. So how can an organization not talk about it now when this has become one of the key aspects of people deciding whether they want to join a company or not, and how they want to build their life around this entire changing lifestyle or mindset, I should say.
Yeah. So I'm sure that there was a certain part in your life where it was FMCG also.
Yes.
But does the comms way of working change if it's an FMCG brand or a B2B brand or a B2C brand, right? Does it change, or is pretty much the standard way of... I know the umbrellas under which it has. It's got employee communication, it's got brand communications, it's got PR communications, everything. But does the strategy change if it's a B2C brand to a B2B brand?
See, I'll tell you, the strategy only changes from company to company.
Okay.
I don't think so it has to do anything with the industry.
Okay.
It depends on what that business, what that organization, what that brand wants to do. Based on that, you will see that brand acting accordingly. Do they want to really talk about employee comms? They will. They do not want to talk about a lot of business related information, a lot of information about numbers. A lot of organizations don't talk about it. Right? It's not a strategy. It's not a strategy for them to talk about it. They still want to continue in the normal old-fashioned way. So I think it very much depends on what the organization wants, where it is headed, what is the ambition of the organization in terms of business, and how does the organization see itself growing. Obviously, if you compare industries, there is a difference. If we assume that these three companies have the same mindset, have the same strategy, obviously, then there is a difference in the communication that you do from B2B, from B2C, from an FMCG, from a more consumer marketing point of perspective. In FMCG, you will talk a lot to your consumers, right? You will be positioning yourself as a brand which is closer to people for whatever they are selling, whether it's oil, whether it's soap, whether it's your spices. They will be talking a lot to your consumers. You will have a lot of influencer marketing happening. You will have a lot of buzz happening in your Carrefour kiosks. You will have a lot of comms going out on from farm to table, right? How we bring it in, and how is it good for you? How is it healthy for you? Whereas if it's an electrical industry, I don't need to talk about it. What I might probably want to talk about is, how we are contributing to the economy, what kind of CSR we have done, how sustainable are our production facilities, how much of a carbon footprint do we save with this kind of packaging, with this kind of supply chain. So this is what would change there. And then you have these SMEs, right? We started the conversation before that on that. So I think SMEs, again, depends on what industry they fall into, but SMEs, I think, like to do everything, but they cloak everything together in one shot, because we understand the resources are limited, finances might be limited for whatever reasons. So they have one shot to tell their story, and they want to tell the story from all angles in one go. So I think they mix a lot of things and they talk about it together. So I think communications, for me, is not a certain box that we tick or how we tick it. What's important is that the organization, the business understands that why do we want to communicate and what do we want to communicate. I think everything else follows after that. Every business has a set audience, and then obviously the reason to communicate more is to get more people to listen to you, more people to hear you out, and more people to notice you. That is one common aim of us communicating, whether it's corp comms, internal marketing comms, anything that we do. So I think it depends, as I said again, on what the organization wants to do and where they want to go.
Okay. So I know that you must have answered this question 100 times, but how has digital disrupted the entire journey? Because now there's a difference between intent and impact.
Yes.
Earlier, the intent could be some and the impact could be something, but the harm could be less. But now with intent, and if you don't get that same impact, it could magnify itself to go out of control.
So and become viral in the very absolutely wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons, And so how has it disrupted? And there are lots of benefits, of course. We are just talking about that when it goes.
It's a double-edged sword. You cannot escape it. It might work, it might just hit you back with.
And fortunately, we are one of those generations which seen the pre and during and post, right?
Yes,
we have seen the world where it was much more easier when.
I think our generation saw the maximum disruption in the technology field.
Yeah. So coming back to the question is that how are the steps and how should corporate comms adapt itself digitally in terms of what it does?
See, I'll tell you, there's a simple answer. There's no choice. You adopt it or you fail, because everybody is hooked onto the devices now. How do you not communicate if you're not sending digital messages, right? People now, there was a time when WhatsApp was only for personal communication, right? It's no longer the case.
Absolutely.
It is no longer the case.
Correct.
I think it's like a supplementary comms channel to emails. People work faster on WhatsApp than they work on emails, right?
Correct.
So what I'm trying to say is that there's no choice now for organizations to say that we will not adopt this comms trend and we are not going to jump on the digital bandwagon. It will not work like that. But what will work is that, for example, if you tell me that every organization should be on metaverse, no, I'm sorry. No, hell no, absolutely no. So we pick and choose. Idea is to find the right channels and optimize those channels to find a good mix of always being connected to your customers and always being connected to your employees and to your stakeholders. I think with that in mind, every organization will understand that are they overcrowding or are they at the right mix? Because, for example, if you look at, I'll take an example of us. So, we have the intranet channel, right? Then we have the newsletters coming from the intranet. Then we have 10 different types of other newsletters coming from the intranet. So obviously the business, the comms teams is very conscious to ensure that people are receiving news on what they have chosen to receive news on. They are not getting bombarded, because this is technically what we call noise.
Correct.
Right? We don't want to choke the channels. We want people to get access to information that they want with limited number of clicks or limited number of access profiles or touch points, and see what they want to see, right? So keep that two-way channel open, but only for important communication. I think most of the organizations are mindful of this now, right? This is also thanks to the fact that businesses or comms teams within businesses are trying to build this synergy between external and internal comms. Right? The more and more that happens, the more and more you will realize that the internal comms is becoming nothing but external comms, but happening within an organization. The employees are the audiences, right? So the more businesses focus on those synergies, the more our learnings from external marketing in terms of noise cancellation, how much newsletters do we send, who do we talk to, has this employee subscribed to receiving this newsletter or not, which we do with our external customers. I think you will see more and more balance getting created in internal internal comms disruptions. So again, to answer your question, no, there is no choice. We have to jump on the bandwagon, and otherwise, it's be lost and be not there. But to choose the right channels, to be mindful of why and which channels we are looking at.
Interesting to say that, because one of the most interesting part, so as you said, the noise, right? Now, comms make it sound like it's a one-way street.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's information. Keep it, take it or leave
Goodbye.
it. It could be once in a month. It could be once in 2 months. I don't care. So is there a listening part to corporate comms, right? How does the corporate comms or the marketing, because from consumer feedback, it's pretty easy. They talk on social media.
They have everywhere to talk about us now, yeah.
So
they can even go and complain on a radio channel about the brand. They have all the avenues open.
Correct, and there go ratings, and there's so much of stuff that goes on.
They have so much power now, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have to be very mindful of that. And today's generation doesn't really think twice before talking. They just
shoot from the hip,
yeah. So as a corporate comms team, is there ways and processes that which you listen, like even if it's internal employees or even it's from with the B2B business, amount of conversations that generated out of your brand will be very limited.
Yeah.
Because it's
and
not
would be
B2C.
essentially within the extended ecosystem of the business, because B2B is you have your distributors and
Correct.
your channel partners with you, with whom you anyways have very regular conversations, and they're not it's not a consumer on an end user view. It's still an extended business for you.
Correct, exactly. And also B2C businesses have got the social listening tools, so
Yes,
they have enough volume of conversation to even form the cloud.
Tap into,
Yeah. So how do you make sure that you listen to the conversation? Is it something that's driven top down or bottoms up kind of listening, or does that depend organization to organization and to structure your corporate comms?
I think it's a lot to do with the company culture.
Right.
The company culture determines how you are as a corporate, right? So if the company culture is one of openness, one of allowing and enabling two-way dialogues, then I think this is not a problem. For example, there can be a lot of surveys that can be done internally, right? To understand how employees feel on the key KPIs that the organization has set for. Employee happiness, for example, right? There has to be an open avenue available to the employees to come and present their ideas or raise their grievances or even whistleblow, right? So it also depends on as I said, culture and the maturity of the organization. Some organizations may not want to have a whistleblowing mechanism in place for whatever reasons, which you and I understand, but I don't want to talk about it here. But a lot of organizations do want to have that avenue. They might have a third party on board to manage such kind of grievances, and they're more than happy to open that avenue to their employees for them to talk about this. So again, this is definitely determined by the culture. In smaller organizations, when you're working with a lesser number of employees, you may not have a lot of these formal channels, but then there's a lot of unofficial grapevine and gossip that probably takes place of these formal channels of two-way communication. But I think for any healthy corporate environment, for any business to have a healthy corp comms, internal comms strategy, I think two-way dialogue is very important. That's the question you started with. And again, this has to be driven top-down culturally. How many times does your business leader, your company CEO actually come in front of the employees, the entire masses, and address them? Right? Most of the conversations happen from behind the desk through an editorial newsletter. No, I think that changed. That was changing already before COVID. 5-6 years back, we had the concept of these town halls, these offsite gatherings of key project teams meeting the business leader, the business head, CEO, CFO, CMOs. I think that, when done in the right way, is what shows the right corporate culture, the right employee culture, the right culture that allows a two-way dialogue. Because when they come in front of you, okay, this is someone who I can talk to. And obviously also to have an open door policy. But again, it depends on the culture of the organization. How comfortable are they to have this kind of a mechanism in place? So, yeah.
So now coming to the brands that you handle right now, right? And so it's a very emerging market kind of a brand. And the purpose of and it's at a very early stage. It's almost, you can say, almost like a startup within a large corporate. Would it be fair to say that?
Right.
So
Young brand, a very young brand.
Young
yeah.
brand. There is not, and I can imagine. I'm sorry, I'm preempting it. Maybe not a lot of budget set aside.
Yes.
Said
We
you
are
have to,
financially lean. We are lean in terms of resources, but our ambition is still very lofty, which is good. Which is what makes it challenging, and which makes it, as I said, satisfactory when we get closer to those goals that we want to achieve within those limited resources.
Yeah. So how do you go about like a completely new brand, right? Now I'm talking to the lot of listeners out there
Right.
who are thinking, okay, I have never done corporate comms, right? I don't have unlimited resources, right? Maybe you're better off than a lot of those organizations because considering you're part of a larger organizations. But at least like they have a vision that, okay, maybe not now, maybe another couple of years, I make sure that I'm a B2B business, I need a corporate comms, and I see that there's a lot of potential out there. And because of a lack of awareness within these brands and not a lack of funds, even for that matter, right? There are a lot of larger mid-sized organizations have the funds.
But don't do it.
Don't do it because they really don't know there's something like this exists or they should be doing it,
Right.
So what would be the few things that you should advise them to start off today, if they can, to start off the corporate comms division, let me just say.
Yeah, I think first thing what I would like every brand or every organization to ask themselves is that what is the brand story that they want to tell? Right. If they don't know the story that they want to tell, I think it would not do justice to anything I say after this, right? So if you know the story you want to tell, then you also know who you want to talk to, right? For example, if I am I have a business of selling carpets, just taking an example, I would know who I would want to talk to: homemakers, designers, people who do decorations for businesses also, right? So I know who I want to talk to, who are the decision makers, who do I want to influence. So once I know the story, once I know who I want to talk to, I think that's the first step, first problem already solved. Right. Then you will go in and look at what are the channels that I want to go on and start talking about my brand, which means, is my homemaker going to be on Facebook or Insta, or my homemaker is going to be on LinkedIn? No, she's going to be on a Facebook or an Insta, right? Are my IDs, my interior decorators, going to be on Insta, Facebook, or LinkedIn? They might also be on LinkedIn, right? So you know where to go to tap into them.
Absolutely.
And anywhere in between, like mixed audience or other decision makers, smaller businesses where you might want to supply your carpets, you will go in and look for these businesses on LinkedIn, or you will start a database collection campaign or something of that sort. So that's the next step. Now you know where to find them, so you can take your story to them. It's like writing a letter and sending it to the right address, right? So that the right message is delivered to the right person. And I think once you have that done, once you know who you're talking to, what you have to say and where you have to say, then comes the extended part of corporate communications, which is key. Now it's the engagement. Has your story been delivered? What is the reaction to your story? What else can you build within this story of your brand to extend it, to involve or include the right and the relevant feedback or reactions that you're getting from the communities that you think are the right communities for you that you want to tap into? I think these are three very simple things that any brand can do and should do, right? So this has a mix of digital, then this will also get translated into your physical activations, then also into your communications, your brand story, your corporate video, a lot of things fall on with this. So that will essentially be driven by the corporate comms team. But as a business, as a brand, this is what you need to think to start that story, that storytelling. Corporate comms is nothing but storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
You're telling that beautiful story about the brand, about the organization. Yeah.
And I think as a course of action for you at some point in time, I think you should become an advocate of corporate comms so that people do talk, because it's one of the most least spoken
functions in comms today.
In comms today, because it's not the glamorous part of marketing.
It's hidden somewhere in between because marketing now, so when you say marketing comms, people are talking a lot about demand generation, revenue marketing, numbers generation, net new names, sales enablement and leads. This is a typical marketing comms, but you're right. I think at the heart of all of this, when it began and as it began, it was and is essentially corporate comms. because I cannot even market a product if I don't know my brand story, if I
Yeah.
don't know what I stand for, what I want to say, right? Because everything evolves around that. And then later on, you talk about the product, the description, the technical stuff, the USPs and all that. But yeah, I think corporate comms is at the center, at the heart of it.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people kind of confuse uh, because it's so lead generation. Okay, there is no direct tangible
Yes,
number
and that's why a
associated.
lot of people don't want to do it, because it will not get you numbers, but it will help you create a brand identity and a brand equity in the long run, which you cannot count or track, but which you will see as an impact over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think any organization for that matter. See, and I also believe that even if you don't have a resource per
Yeah.
se to do it, it can be kind of one of the deliverables within the resources that does that.
Yes,
right?
I mean, the people sitting at the top need to agree, right? They have a business strategy to run. They need to agree what is the story behind that business strategy. What are they trying to run? And that's it. You start building your way up from there.
Excellent. So I think we spoke a lot on the corporate and I'm so happy you did that because since I've worked on the other side
Yeah.
and I've seen the corporate comms teams works and I felt that there is a story to be told on the
Yeah,
corporate comms
yeah.
part of it, and especially with B2B marketing, because I feel with B2B marketing it's even more essential corporate comms kind of B2B because you have this huge
We
ATL
keep
budget.
on talking about the business, but
Yeah.
we somewhere forget about the heart and pulse of the organization. And I just want to add one thing there, Lijo. Sorry for interrupting you.
No worries.
Also, another reason why you don't see much of conversation on corp comms is because this has become a outsource part of business that goes to these agencies who are given this task of building the story one time, done, integrated into marketing comms, flushed out about us. This is it.
Fair enough. And I think now the core essence of the brand does not change over years, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same until unless in once in 10 years, 15 years.
If you get acquired, if you get sold
Correct.
out, or if you buy in another company, your brand identity might change. Your brand story might expand, but it doesn't get erased completely, right? You're building on top of that. You're building on top of those values and that story that you started off with.
Correct. And also the fact that you have to have a continuity those 10 years, 12 years, or 15 years history, right?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that all of the assets that go out internally, externally kind of sustain that
Yes.
that process? So and it's such a tough job to make sure that there is consistency across the years and it does not get diluted,
Right.
depending on how the organization is doing, good, bad, ugly, and staying to core. And I think Schneider has ridden that wave over a period of years.
Oh yes,
where-
oh yes. I mean, we are we've been here for a long time, is what I
Yeah.
would like to say. And the beauty is that as we grew and as we evolved, our narrative evolved. It did not change. There's a difference, right? We did not stop being who we are or who
Right.
we were. We only evolved it to explain our standing, our vision better to our customers, to our partners, to our extended ecosystem, and even to internally to the employees. We evolved. The narrative evolved. It didn't change. It still is the core of who we are, how we started off, what kind of a company we are, what do we believe in.
Cool. On that note, all the best for your new role, and it's going to be, I'm sure,
Thank you.
it's going to be chaotic. I think on multiple
Marketing
levels.
is chaotic, you know
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's never easy.
Exactly, and I think with the kind of geographies that's involved and India being part of it,
Yeah.
that brings in a huge amount of
Yes.
complexity
Yes.
by itself, right?
Yes.
So all the best.
Thank
you
you so much,
once
Lijo.
again coming on my podcast. Before we sign off, how does somebody get in touch with you? Like, what's the best way?
Best way is I'm available and accessible on my LinkedIn
Okay.
account. Please reach out, connect. I generally reply to messages within 1 hour when I receive something. Happy to connect, happy to build that network. So yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
So thank you once again, Vibha. Glad
Thank you,
to have
Lijo. Thank you so much. Interesting conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.